Apologies for that technical glitch there, but this is you are on Firstpost, and I'm Rupha Ramani. This is our coverage of champions of cricket, and if there's one team that played like true champions, it has to be Team India. They completely routed Pakistan, and the man standing tall was the man who's been under heavy scrutiny over the last 6-7 months. One of the senior most players, the most experienced hand in that Indian squad, Virat Kohli, coming out on top, not only scoring his 100, but also managing to get India across the finish line, both happening pretty much together simultaneously. Quite a memorable match here. And somehow Virat Kohli manages to step up, especially when the opposition happens to be Pakistan, as we witnessed. And I'm just seeing some of those pictures there. Virat Kohli, all smiles, completely at ease, was in his zone. It wasn't one of those tracks where you could go hammer and tongs continuously. The pitch had a bit in it, especially in the start, but it held considerably better than the wicket that both India and Bangladesh played on earlier in Dubai. This one at least held its own and definitely didn't look like India were as much in trouble as was Pakistan when they chose to bat first. Have to say, a lot of positives for India coming out of this particular win. And we will speak about how absolutely disappointed Pakistan fans will be at this point. We saw pictures of so many of them showing their frustrations, showing their anger and absolute disappointment in the way their team performed. One of the hosts, the co-hosts, performed, because with this loss against India, the co-host of the Champions Trophy, in fact, the premier host of the Champions Trophy, is staring at an early exit here. They will end up being spectators in an event that they chose, that they are hosting here. You are, of course, the man of the moment, of course, has been Virat Kohli, who's somehow managed to make this match all about himself. So what were the areas that really pegged Pakistan back? If we have to go back to that first innings, I think a lot of the way they structured their innings really reflected put a lot of pressure on the Pakistan bowlers trying to defend 240, 242, especially in the middle overs. Despite Mohammed Rizwan, the skipper, getting into a good partnership there in the middle with Saud Shakil, somehow they weren't really able to keep the score sticking, keep that run rate as high as they possibly could. There were a lot of dot balls. They didn't look like they were in rhythm. They were just managing to steady a ship that was rocked when Pakistan managed to lose 2 quick wickets right in that power play. I think that completely pegged them back. And the track wasn't one where you could really bat as freely as you'd hope to, you'd want to. It was one that required a lot of patience, a lot of application, and a bit of gritty display too, which came but probably much towards the end and a little too late. Kushdil, who's someone to look out for, a promising talent in that relatively young lineup, managed to save some face for Pakistan to get them to a slightly decent total, which they could have hoped to defend. In fact, I think they themselves knew they were quite a few runs short, because in that mid-innings interview that Saud gave to the broadcasters, he did, and when he was asked, were they confident to defend this, he said, yes, we will have to try and do it. It isn't going to be easy. It wasn't going to be easy, especially with the kind of pedigree that India boasts of, especially with the bat. But the pressure was definitely going to be on India if they were lost a few wickets there. Pakistan looked like they had a slight advantage when they sent Rohit Sharma back earlier on in that power play, because he is the only one who would be capable of stepping on the accelerator and kind of scoring in the rate that you needed to, especially in those first 10 overs, which was very key. which was going to be key in this battle between two of the biggest rivals. But surprisingly, and which is going to be such a huge talking point for India in this entire tournament, the role that Shubman Gill played and the kind of maturity that he's beginning to bring with his profile as an opener. He was going to play the supporting role with Rohit being the intimidating opener and trying to get those big shots going in that first phase of play. But just as soon as Rohit got dismissed, Shubman Gill stepped into gear three with some beautifully timed shots, with some big hits, not really showing panic, but showing some sense of confidence. And that really proved to be a bit of a key moment for India to try and get back the momentum to go into their favor. And that's when I think Pakistan lost a bit of their confidence and lost a bit of the power. I think just like how Pakistan continued to be on the back foot with the bat, it was a pretty similar lack of intent when they came in to bowl as well. At no time did they put enough pressure on Pakistan collectively. There were a few good moments where they did induce false shots, where they did get a couple of the Indian batters to make errors, but it didn't really execute the way they wanted to. A few loose catches, dropped catches there, where they let off Shubman Gill, and then of course one that came in later when they let Shreyas Iyer off as well before he reached his 50. A lot of those really affected the momentum for Pakistan and never really got them back into the game. They missed out on capitalizing on a few chances that someone like Rauf had induced. But their best bowler was someone who you didn't expect to step up and create that sort of pressure, which didn't come from any of the others at the other end. It was Abrar, who really completely put a check on that Indian lineup. They tried to, in fact, Mohammed Rizwan tried his best. He did make some smart bowling changes in the middle, but it wasn't really materializing into something concrete, given the fact that India was playing some very smart cricket. Virat Kohli, the most experienced, especially when it comes to run chases. I mean, you know it. Virat Kohli is equals run chases, and in fact, it was quite a historic one, which saw him also cross a record 14,000 international runs, ODI runs, equaling some of the best in the business, like Sachin Tendulkar and Kumar Sangakkara. Especially with someone like him out there, you always knew you were going against the tide, and if you didn't put pressure and collective pressure on someone like Virat Kohli, you knew you would always be playing catch up and wouldn't really be on top at any moment, and which is exactly what happened. This Pakistan side was completely routed. At no point did they really look like they were in the game, apart from, say, a few moments there, but it was absolutely sparse, and they were unable to keep that pressure up and build that sort of a scenario, a cauldron scenario, to try and snuff or try and at least put a lid on India's scoring rate. India managed to rotate the strike well. They made sure they didn't dry out of boundaries. They always got one good hit, a four for sure, to keep that run rate high and make sure this chase was not going to go by the wayside. And unsurprisingly, Virat Kohli ended up being the player of the match here. Quite a momentous occasion for someone like him too. The tournament sort of started with everyone speaking about the pressures on the senior most players, particularly Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli, especially in the absence of a very key player, a key leader in their ranks, and someone who made an appearance briefly before the start of the game to collect his ICC award, Jasprit Bumrah. Everyone were talking about how a Bumrah-less Indian lineup would falter unless you had the senior most players chipping in for good measure. Virat Kohli clearly showing that when an occasion presents itself, especially like this, which is a contest against Pakistan, rest assured he will stand up and deliver. A few notes of appreciation also has to go towards someone like Shreyas Iyer. Again, has been a player under pressure over the last 1 year, considering all that's happened in his career, where he last year, where the BCCI had to pull the plug on his contract. A very, very strong, mature knock from Shreyas Iyer, where he scored his 50. And of course, that was a key partnership between him and Virat Kohli, which really shepherded that run chase for India and created moments where then India just were able to smooth through. So yes, it is Virat Kohli's 51st ODI century, his 82nd international century, and of course his maiden one in Champions Trophy. So clearly a moment for someone like Virat Kohli, who absolutely loves to dominate a game, and he's already there on a call with his family, as has become pretty much the norm these days. Shikhar Dhawan on the sidelines there as well, someone who was part of the last Champions Trophy win for India. Congratulating all the Indian players. It's been quite a historic moment here, and India with this win, a bit of reversing the Champions Trophy curse that we know is always has been. Pakistan has been has been on the better side of the results, especially when it comes to this particular tournament and this format. Not so much the other ICC events. So with this win, India hasn't only announced their candidature for the semi-final berth. It's all but sealed. I think that match between India and New Zealand towards the end, the last of the group game, would really determine which of the two teams are most likely to finish number one. I think that will be the contest as what we would look to assume, because the remaining two matches are between New Zealand, Bangladesh, and Pakistan and Bangladesh. So if results go in the predictable manner that you expect it to, then that last game in that group between India and New Zealand becomes the battle for who will finish on top of this group as they head into that semi-final, which will be key, because today we witnessed a very contrasting match to the one that everyone's raving about last night. A record run chase, a match that saw 700 plus runs being scored. England and Australia really putting up quite a show there, and also throwing their hat into the ring as possible contenders here. It's not just New Zealand and India across in this group. There's much more exciting action that is left to be seen here. But as we see it now, Pakistan's chances of making it past this group stage comes to almost close to an end, unless miracles happen in the next two games and you have a possibility of Pakistan sneaking in through net run rate. A mathematical possibility always there, but it does seem pretty dim at this point. Pakistan absolutely woeful run in ICC events right from the 2023 World Cup, T20 World Cup last year in the USA and West Indies. It has been absolutely disappointing journey for Pakistan over the last 1.5 years in ICC tournaments, and that disappointment continues despite being the host. I mean, I think the most saddening aspect of this result is that the locals, the Pakistani fans who are at home, will not get to possibly see their own team in the knockout stages of this tournament, which they've been waiting to watch, an ICC event that they've been waiting to be a part of, that they've been waiting for to come home. I think that would be the most disappointing aspect of this particular result. But India, of course, coming out absolutely strong with the way that they have displayed in this crucial and very volatile face-off that we always talk about, India versus Pakistan, ending with India absolutely dominating this contest with both bat and ball. They went in with 3 spinners today, and that pretty much plugged that middle overs and increased that dot ball percentage to almost 50%, putting the putting the tight noose around Pakistan right at the start. But there's, of course, lots more action coming your way in our Champions Trophy coverage, Champions of Cricket. So do not miss catching that as the days go by. The action is only promises to get more exciting. I will, of course, call it a night tonight, but of course, do stay tuned for Firstpost for more coverage, analysis, and all of the behind the scenes information and action from the Champions Trophy.